We'll call this meeting in order. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm telling you, by the end of the year, I'm breaking everybody of the pauses. All right. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Eckert?
Here.
Mr. Franco?
Here.
Mrs. Goebel?
Here.
Dr. O'Shea?
Here.
Dr. Perbola?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Here.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Superintendent's remarks.
Good evening. Thank you, and good evening, board and Tiger community. Let me start out by saying I am so sick of this winter weather. It seems like we're dealing with some type of weather-related obstacle every day. I think I speak for a lot of us when I say I'm just ready for warm weather and spring sports. I see a young man back there with a bat bag. We all want spring sports. It'll be here in just a few weeks, believe it or not. I'm looking forward to our campus being alive again. I love when there's tons of outdoor activity. It really does seem like our campus comes to life in the spring. Until then, I'm absolutely blaming the groundhog for our weather over the last couple weeks. At our January meeting, I mentioned how a federal funding freeze would impact our schools. This month, I want to share some information with the board and our community about the governor's proposed budget. Quite frankly, the proposed budget does nothing to help us. Our proposed increase is less than $100,000. It doesn't even come close to a cost of living increase. If anybody gets a chance, I would encourage you to look at the Pennsylvania Department of Education website for the proposed amounts of funding for each school district in the state. You will see that small to mid-sized rural Republican school districts are getting an extremely small slice of the significantly increased education funding. It's hard, it's very hard, and I try never to do this, but it's hard not to take that personally. There are 500 school districts in Pennsylvania, public school districts. In the governor's proposed school budget, or proposed education budget, 150 school districts will split 3% of the total education funding, while the remaining 350 school districts will split 97%. They get the lion's share. Unfortunately, we're a tiger. We are one of the 150 school districts splitting the 3%. I mean, it's just not right. I don't know how else to say it. Just like all school districts, we too have escalating costs and obligations. I've already met with Senator Baker to share my displeasure and frustration. It was a very, very positive meeting that left me hopeful about the likely pushback the proposed budget will receive. I have been talking with other rural districts that are being negatively impacted, and let me just tell you this. I'm going to be vocal about how the proposed budget does not meet the needs of our school district. You know, the proposed amount for our district is less than a 1% increase for us. I'm asking that people within our community reach out to our local legislators and ask them to support adequate funding for rural school districts. I firmly believe that our local legislators will support that notion. Let me switch subjects because I'm fired up about it, but here's some good news. Our boys swim team has been absolutely crushing it. Just recently, senior diver River Strauss set a new school diving record. He will be one of the favorites heading into the district championships. Also, our 200-meter freestyle relay team recently set a pool and meet record at the Les Richards Invitational Meet. The relay team members are Aiden Mislevy, Josh Cadet, Jaden Baltrasitis, and Kyle Kozlowski. They will be tough to beat at the district championships, there's no question. And most excitingly about our swim team, our boys swim team, led by Coach Tim Mislevy, just completed another year of being undefeated in league action. They are back-to-back Wyoming Valley Conference League champions, so congratulations to our boys swim team. With high school assistant principal Brittany Wood right now are two of our latest additions to the Tiger community. Ben and Jerry are, Brittany, correct me if I'm wrong, Nigerian dwarf goats. Nigerian dwarf goats that will be residing in our courtyard with our egg-laying chickens.
Ben and Jerry.
Our future Farmers America Club takes care of the animals each day. So I welcome Ben and Jerry, but also the chickens. I don't know if everybody knows the chicken names are Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So in the courtyard, we will have Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs, and Ben and Jerry. So since their arrival this week, as you can imagine, Ben and Jerry have been extremely popular with students and staff. They may have even visited my office on an occasion or two. I invite everybody here tonight to go and meet our newest friends, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to our community.
Thank you. I hear Ben and Jerry were asking if we were going to get like an Elsa and Anna or something like that so that they had some friends. No? All right. Okay.
Right now, let me say this about Ben and Jerry. They're so young right now. Brittany, Mrs. Wood has to take them home every night because they can't be left in the courtyard yet.
Yeah, she has their bottle there
And
tonight.
they need to be bottle fed. Yes, good job.
And
Mrs.
I
Wood.
heard that Mrs. Wood's children are going to move to the courtyard too because they don't want the goats to be lonely. Right. Yeah. All right. Thank you for those remarks. I let the record show that we held an executive session prior to this meeting for personnel matters related to specific staff and the informational workshop regarding the 23-24 independent audit. With that, we'll move to public comments on agenda items only. There's 4 minutes for a comment session per person. Please state your name and your municipality when you come up to the podium. And it's open for students, staff, residents, parents of district children. Do we have any public comment on agenda items only? Okay, seeing none. Moving along, you have the enrollment is there for your review. Any discussion? Item F, under the meeting opening, the approval of minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Dr. Osherek,
Yes.
Dr. Perbola,
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Under business and finance, do we have a motion for item A, the business and finance report?
Motion to approve.
Was that a motion?
Motion.
Oh.
Sorry.
Motion
Second.
from Dr. Rushira. Did we have a second?
Yes, Paula.
Oh, Paul, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Dr. Osherek,
Yes.
Dr. Perbola,
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Superintendent's report.
Personnel report.
I would like a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve? Oh, sorry.
So I'm a newbie on the electronic document thing here, so are we approving the personnel report and the conference attendance report? Is that what the?
No, this is strictly
doing
the
it
personnel
separate.
report.
Okay, so we're separate, okay. So it's A,
Yes.
Correct.
okay. So did we get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Laura has a motion.
I'll second.
Dr. Poole, the second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Franco, Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Dr. Osherek,
Yes.
Dr. Perbola,
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes.
Thank
So
you. And
item B.
thank you. And my second item is a motion to approve the conference attendance as presented. However, I do want to point out of the 4 I'm asking for to be covered, one of them is after the fact. I don't want to point to anybody on the stage, but someone did not get it in, forgot to hit the submit button. So I'm asking you to consider Mrs. Egan's conference, even though it is over. And I know the board likes to get those in advance.
Motion to approve, even Mrs. Egan.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick,
Yes.
Dr. Perbola.
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Committee reports. We had a transportation committee meeting prior to this. I don't know, would you like to report out on that?
We had a discussion regarding how our bus contractors are getting paid. We have no recommendation at this point to the full board. We're going to continue to look at the possibility of increasing the mileage amount that is in the state formula from what the state formula is to a higher amount, perhaps as a possible way to help the bus contractors in an equitable fashion. But that will be an ongoing consideration that we'll be looking at. No recommendation at this point.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if you mentioned we're having another meeting?
We will have another meeting before the next board meeting at 5:30 for the Transportation Committee.
Thank you. Any other committees feel that they need to schedule a meeting before the next meeting? Not literally before, but between now and the next meeting? Mrs. Laughlin had already updated the board books app for the committee changes. There weren't a ton. I think several people kind of just got shuffled around amongst themselves. But I also sent out that screen cap that had the committees listed, if anybody has any questions. And I believe we have a vote tonight for Paula's seat on the IU. I'm just,
People weren't here, so they have to do the.
okay.
because
So
there was no way to do it.
a lot of us weren't here, so we all have to do our ballots tonight. Okay, got it. All right. Moving along, we have under unfinished business the second reading of board policies.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. These are all just standard updates from PSBA?
That's correct.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. O'Sherrick,
Yes.
Dr. Perbola.
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. The approval of the 25 through 28 district special education plan.
Can I just add something before? This is a plan we're required to do. Every district in the state's required to do every 3 years. If you recall, last meeting, we asked to have it posted publicly for review on our website. There is not any significant change to our special education programming. In fact, there's really no change at all. We are just required to submit this to the state every 3 years. So we're asking for your consideration to approve. And again, it has been out for public review.
Did we receive any feedback publicly?
It did not.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Perbola.
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Moving on to the informational documents, the first one you have in the file is for the right to knows. There has been an uptick in right to knows.
There has. So far this school year, we've received 17 right-to-know requests. We've had a lot recently. As of today, all have been fulfilled or denied. We've spent district staff has spent approximately 10 hours processing these requests, and we don't have much in legal fees yet, just because the majority of them are recent.
Increase the size.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, look at that.
I
Okay.
did that.
Sounds good. The other thing was the Visa account is there for your review. Do we need any discussion on any of those? Quiet group tonight. All right, moving along to item B under new business, the bus and van contracts.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, next we have out-of-state, or approval of overnight and out-of-state field trips.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Who's going to the Museum of Natural History? I was
Yeah, I was
trying to-
wondering that too. It says high school.
Mrs. Egan, who's going to the Museum of Natural History? The mu-
Oh, I'm sorry, that would be Mrs. Cypher's class.
What grade?
Mrs. Kudish, actually one of our retired teachers, is now in charge of education for that museum in New York City. So she's going to take our kids through the museum.
Oh, very nice.
It's like the biology, or what? class?
Mary Jean, what grade?
What's that?
What grade?
Cypress is grade.
10th.
10th grade.
Oh, that's
Biology?
exciting.
Biology, yeah.
That's great.
Very nice.
I'm not sure of that, I can check on that for you.
No, that's, I just was wondering. That's just new, that's all.
Yes, one of our former teachers is in charge of the education program there. Like, that's incredible. What an
That's kinda
opportunity.
neat.
Motion to approve.
Yep. Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item D, the 2023-2024 Independent Audit Report. Motion to approve the 23-24 Independent Audit Report of Murphy Doherty, not related to the superintendent. and
No
company.
relation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Once we've approved this, within the next couple days, it will be uploaded to the website?
Absolutely.
All right. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes, and it's a clean audit.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right. Item E, motion to approve an agreement for Board Certified Behavior Analytics Services, BCBA, with the LIU for the 24-25 school year.
Motion to approve. Second.
This is a typical service that we receive.
It is, and it's an as-needed service.
There's no like SEL, we're not going to be
No.
programming the brains of any children? Okay.
No,
Just
absolutely
verifying.
not.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item F, a motion to approve an agreement for contracted psychological services with Apple Tree Educational Associates, LLC.
I just want to point out before you even make the motion, this is needed because we have a bilingual student, and we need to be able to do the psychological testing for special education services in their native language.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item G, motion to approve the budget of the LIU for the fiscal year July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item H, motion to approve the 25-26 fuel oil bid as presented.
Motion to approve. Second.
Dr. Suppan, do you have anything you want to say about that, or?
No, last year we had, we put a bid in for 30,000. We're at 37,500. We're a little short this year with the cold winter, so we just increased it a little bit. It's just between the admin building and Mahoopany.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherritt?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, here's Mr. Burke's favorite agenda item of the year. We have a motion. It is my pleasure, John. Motion to approve the 25-26 academic school calendar. And you will see, I'm sure Mr. Doherty is going to talk about it, there are two options presented.
I'll tell you, if you look, there are two, like you said, there are two options. I absolutely love the June end calendar. I love it. However, what we had talked about previously is we know Skills USA Championships, and Chuck Richter could back me up on there. I thought it was for the Olympics. It's not for the Olympics. In Skills USA, National Championships is always in Atlanta. Next year, the World Cup is in Atlanta. I said Olympics previously, it's the World Cup that's there. So Skills got moved from the end of the month to the beginning of the month, the first week of June. Now, maybe it's arrogant of us, but we're anticipating that we're going to have kids that qualify. Last year we did not. Historically, we do. Is that correct, Mr. Richter? If that's the case, Skills USA would run through June 5th, correct? Correct. And then they'd drive home. Yep. So the board, I know, always, we enjoy having the graduation on a Friday or a Saturday. You know, if it rains, then a Saturday, because people travel to the graduation. We don't want to have it during the week. So we got, as I was looking at it, that says then we could either graduate the last week of May before they go, or the second Friday in June. So that either makes graduation the 29th of May or June 12th. No one's looking for that June 12th date. It's, as you can imagine, it's difficult to keep students focused once you get into mid-June. I mean, that's just the educator and experience of me saying that. However, I'd be lying to you if I said I don't love the June 3rd end with the June 5th graduation. I love it.
Okay, but a pause button. Mr. Richter, when do we usually know whether or not we have students that are going to nationals?
Second or third week in April, typically.
Okay,
It's late.
right, but what if they're coming home on the 5th, what if we just said that graduation would be the 6th? What if, because of all these weird things, that this calendar is so superior?
Well,
In
it
nature.
keeps in a couple dates that I like, I'll be honest with you. Like, in the May one, now this sounds silly, but one of the most difficult days to staff is the day after the Super Bowl. Like,
There's a good solution for that.
what's that?
President's Day, we don't need that day off.
I'm open to suggestions. All I'm saying is that I'm open to suggestions. So that's a difficult day. Now this year we had the day after the Super Bowl off because of our way our calendar ended. You know, that gave us some flexibility.
Well, let's hear it, Mr. Burke.
These calendars are the best I've ever seen, so.
Which one, the June 3rd one?
I think the May 29th graduation is great.
Okay. I'll make them work. I mean, don't.
What's the difference, what's the difference between the May 29th and the June 5th? Do they start earlier if for May 29th?
No. So I'll tell you the differences, right? If you're looking at them, in the June end, we're off the Friday before Labor Day. In the May end, we are not. That will be a school day. So there's one day there. Another day would be March 10th. We would take it, if we did the June calendar, I would have a day built in March 10th, almost for like a midwinter break. So that gave parents an opportunity. I mean, historically, a good number of parents in our district travel with their children around that time of the school year. So they, with the in-service day on the 6th, with the 9th and 10th off, that gives them an opportunity to travel. But in the May graduation one, I don't have the 10th built in. And then the last day then was, Super Bowl Sunday. So there's the 3 days. That's what makes up the 3-day difference.
Or you could change the May, or to get the May one to not have Super Bowl, to still have Super Bowl Monday off, you could not have President's Day off, right?
Well, you could have President's Day off, and you also have the 9th, of
No.
February, so that's 2 Mondays in a row. You could, You could keep President's Day off and not have the 9th off.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean,
Well, the 9th is the Super Bowl Sunday
Yeah.
one.
if we were going to vote one, I would say we vote, if it's the May one, I like this calendar as presented. I do. It's just, as I looked and was able to build in, because it does provide other flexibility. I mean, it just does. Well, when you have some extra days built in. But we can make the May one work. And believe me, when we get to May 29th, not one person in this room is going to complain that we graduated May 29th. Look at that group over there. So, I mean, whatever the board wants to put forth as a motion, I just wanted to make sure I gave options.
I do know that we did get I got a lot of positive feedback about having that day after the Super Bowl off.
Oh, come on.
But I'm not talking for the May calendar. If you switch that from the 16th to the 9th, I don't have a student in this school district after graduation this year. So I don't really have a dog in the fight. I'm just trying to think about like what I've heard from other people.
I mean, we could.
Concerns about not having President's Day.
Not that I'm aware of.
We already have the semester transition off on the 12th, so that.
I mean, we could also look at like Easter Thursday. Right now, that's in there as off.
That's a snow day too, usually.
Are you looking for a motion?
I'll make one.
I'll second it.
All right, I make a motion for the 529 graduation with moving the President's Day to Super Bowl Monday.
I'll second that.
Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none. Let's hear a roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
No.
Mrs. Goble?
Yes.
Dr. Oshirik?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
No.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Is it because you guys wanted President's Day off?
It ranks above Super Bowl Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care about the day other than it helps with staffing, is the only reason. 'Cause
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we manage and we cover. I mean, we could do it with President's Day off. I mean, I'm not saying it's not doable. I'm just saying it's a high absentee
We
day.
can still adjust the calendar, it's not 100%.
Right, and I
We
mean,
can.
Martin Luther King Day, if that's not the transition day, like that's on the table to consider moving, so,
The day for the Thursday before Easter.
Yeah, I mean, we can make it work. I'm going to tell you, Super Bowl Sunday staffing, it's harder to staff a Friday in May.
Right, yeah. I'll give him a whole week off.
Done.
all right.
All right, Mr. Richter, the pressure's now on to make sure we get there.
All right.
So are we moving it back to President's Day?
No.
Probably, if we do, it'll be at a future meeting.
Gotcha.
Everybody else stew on it, and then we'll come back and say yes or no.
Gotcha.
But,
Thank you.
Yes, that was the motion.
yeah, I thought you meant, are we moving it back? Like, no, like, so it's taken off of President's Day, and it is now the day after the Super Bowl. But don't book your cruises with Missy yet, just in case. All right. Any additional public comments on any subjects?
I want to thank Mr. Doherty about the first conference, but the other three conferences have no mileage down. Are they expected to pay for their own fuel?
I can't speak to that because when I put mine in, I pay for my own. I don't know, maybe they are.
I just wondered,
Like any time I've ever gone to a conference, I don't put in for mileage.
yeah, well, one's in Philly, one's out southwest of Pittsburgh, and the other one's out in Kalahari.
They can get what they're approved for.
And are you going to send out a committee list or put it on the email or whatever? I take it some has changed.
It's on the agenda,
Yeah.
the committee
Well, I
list,
didn't find it, but
under the committees.
it took me a while to figure out this system. All right.
It's there.
Any other public comment? Any board comment?
USA and Canada, 8 o'clock tonight. Hockey.
I know I've rang this bell before, but a report was released today by the Pennsylvania Auditor General about the cyber school situation in this country, or sorry, this state, probably the country too, but the state's pretty bad. It looked at the top 5 cyber charter schools, and those 5 cyber charter schools have over $500 million in their general funds that are not allotted to anything else. So it is just another, and that, you know, generally that's a more Republican, but like a pro-charter school situation. However, this is a Republican Auditor General that came out with this report saying, hey, we need to do something, and they're talking about putting a committee together or whatnot. But any additional information or pressure that we could put on our state legislature to address this issue would immensely benefit not only our district and your tax dollars, but those districts around us and their tax dollars as well. So you can look that up. It was just released today. If you Google search Pennsylvania Cyber School Report, it should come up towards the top. If nobody else has anything, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?